You'll never know who you'll pick up driving for quick rides. Part 1. It was so simple. It looked so easy. Easy money on your phone, in your own car, in your own town, on your own time. Just download the app, register your vehicle, verify your driver's license, and pass a routine background check. Boom. You're a driver for quick rides. The software tells you who needs a ride, when, where to pick them up, where to drop them off. It's point and click. Let's get one thing straight though. Even before this weird thing started happening to me, I was deeply resentful that my 9 to 5 doesn't pay the bills, doesn't support a family. I thought I worked hard enough, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and sometimes doing overtime to support not only myself, but a family. But unfortunately, that is not the order of things. The order of things are that I am free to seek out additional opportunities to support my family. And that's what I'm doing. At least this is a legit opportunity. I would not want to end up like my dumbass felon of a brother. I tried my fair share of ways to get some extra cash in before the kid gets here. I tried stacking shelves third shift and some security guard work. Being at a grocery store that late creeped me out, and I couldn't stay awake as a security guard, and got fired for falling asleep after my 6th night on the job. This I can do whenever I want. After my day job at the book warehouse, and I can push myself as little or as much as I want. But the big bucks are around 2 a.m., when the kids at the local university get kicked out of the bars. But that was back in the spring. It's summer now, and fairs that way don't have their fair bonus anymore. I have to admit, the aura of the streetlights, the blur of the traffic lights, the night wind from the windows rolled down are becoming a hypnotic rush for me. Even the app for QwikRidez is designed like an addictive interface, similar to any number of repetitive candy-crushing apps or slot machines I've played before. Always rounding up to the nearest dollar for the next fare, and the bright lights for doing so. I started to work 4 nights a week, going as late as 3 a.m., but I started slipping on the job, and the next morning, I'd be tired. I would call in, and my girl started getting down on me for being out so late all the time. At first, she wasn't so mad when I could drive 1 or 2 nights a week, sometimes 3, especially for those big college kid bucks, but like I said, they're gone now. Now I could go out and drive 5 nights a week and probably not bring in the same. At first I tried to brush my girl off, but when I started thinking about it, I figured she was right. Besides, we've only got a couple months left until the kids come. Only a couple months left and quiet together. So I should have just quit. I should have rolled up the windows, unbuckled my seatbelt, and deleted the app there and then. But I didn't. And here's what happened to me. I was driving through the busy areas around 10 one night. My app gave me a fare located down a few cross streets at the Seabreeze apartments. It was a nice area, and a couple fares a night from Seabreeze was about right. It is unfortunate, though, that they are often service workers downtown and don't tip particularly well, but it's not like I would turn down a fare because of that. I was a street away, stopped at a light, when the fare suddenly disappeared. Not only did it disappear, but the app itself seemed to restart. It was normal for a fare to cancel once in a while, but I've never had the app completely restart before. I had to pop the phone out of my hands-free holder, and I tried to hit the app to get it to respond. I didn't notice some headlights behind me at the stop sign, and I jumped up a bit when the vehicle honked at me. The car pulled around to my side. It was a cop, and my gut seized up. In this state, it's illegal to have your hands on your phone, even when you're stopped at a stop sign or stoplight. And he had me dead to rights. He rolled down his window and signaled for me to do the same. The cop, a big guy with a clean-shaven, round face crinkled by time, yelled at me from across his cruiser. "Hey, pay attention. You're not supposed to be doing that. If I wasn't getting off duty soon, we'd be having a very different conversation. Is that clear?" I dropped the phone and I said, "Yes, officer." Then he rolled up his window and drove through the stop sign past me. I had a million chances and warnings and reasons to quit and go home right then. But it's amazing what you'll do when you're chasing one more $4.11 fare for the night. The app reloaded finally, and the fare popped up again. This time it was across the street. Her name, according to the app, was Lydia Kittner. I turned my head, and to my amazement, I saw a beautiful young woman with long blonde hair dressed in a yellow and red 1960s-ish vintage dress, bright red shoes, and flower headbands standing fully illuminated under a street lamp just on the other side of the street. She locked her gaze to my eyes, and she put out her cigarette on the ground. She batted her big blue eyes at me once before, then rolling her eyes off to the distance, as if ridiculing me for not already have turning my car around to her curb and opening the door for her. I was honestly reluctant to pick up any smokers. My girl said she could smell it in the car and on me for days. I went to accept the fare anyway, but the app said I already did. Even if I wanted to undo the fare, my rep score would get dinged. A fast track to getting fired remotely. I thought about undoing the fare again, but ruled against it, thinking that maybe in the future I would have to do this kind of work again. So, with all that locked in, I pulled a Yui and stopped. She pulled herself into the back seat without so much as a word. To my amazement, she didn't smell like smoke at all. Even as she started to speak to me, "This is a nice truck. I've never seen this model before. No ashtrays. No one seems to have them anymore." I couldn't smell any tobacco on her. "Yeah, sorry, I don't get many smokers." She let go a slight laugh as I pulled away from the curb while looking around for anything she could use for an ashtray. "It's okay. It's only a short drive to Westside Park," she said. Her destination appeared on the app, which remained in my cup holder rather than its display case. I promptly drove her to her destination at Westside Park. She sat cool, calm, with her legs straight. She didn't fasten her seatbelt, which I almost said something about, but I chose not to. She removed a small mirror from her purse and peered at herself intensely. I couldn't stop myself from looking at her in my rear view. Something about her was electric and glowing, something oddly pure out of time and space. I arrived rather quickly at her destination, and she carefully extracted herself from the vehicle, and dug into her purse and produced a cash tip of $2. I always appreciated the cash tips to keep them off the QwikRidez tax forms. Crickets chirped in the sweet summer air as she seemed to glide towards the gazebo situated just off-center near the middle of Westside Park. Under the soft lights of the gazebo, I saw the figure of a young African-American man wearing big glasses with a tan suit. I was transfixed as he greeted her with a bouquet of roses, which she tossed aside, only to grasp hold of the man tightly and kiss him on the mouth. I felt kind of weird peeping on them at this point, but my phone was acting up again, and I couldn't get another fare quite yet. So I felt justified remaining parked there because of that. A public display of affection cooled into a slow dance with her pressing her head into his chest, as I could hear him sing something old and sweet. The whole scene seemed timeless, and yet out of time. The crickets turned quiet as I could hear loud footsteps in the shadows of the park. From the far side of the park, I could make out the outline of a tall person in dark clothes, possibly with something over their head. It was over so fast. The flash of a silvery revolver, 2 bangs, 2 flashes, and the couple was down, and the gazebo was slick and shiny with their blood. The cloaked figure darted off behind the gazebo. I swallowed wrong and started to choke as I fumbled for my phone and panicked to report what I had just seen. I coughed up and struggled to pull up the dialer for 911. Then a cop car pulled up behind me, flashed its berries and cherries, and that same old cop who warned me earlier for using the phone appeared at my window. All he said was, "Let's take a walk." I could barely stammer out a complete sentence to report the murder I just witnessed, the shooting, the gunshots, the whole thing. He must have seen it, or at least heard it, at that point. I pointed wildly towards the gazebo when I turned my head towards the crime scene. Instead of two bloody bodies, the gazebo was clean and clear of anyone and everything. I gasped, and my eyes darted around. The cop made a come here motion with his hand, waving me out of the relative safety of my SUV. He let out a low sigh, rubbed his eyes. "Okay, kid. Here's how it works." He looked down at me with his hands at his side. "She'll tell you when she needs to be picked up, from where, and you have to go get her. She's going to meet the guy. She's going to toss aside the roses. They're going to kiss. They're going to dance. And then they're going to die. If you don't get her here, well, you don't want to find out." I was sweaty and discombobulated, like I had just run a 5K. My heart was in my throat, and my brain was out of order. "Look, kid, I'll give you what help I can, but she needs to get here." But how? What? What? "I don't understand it myself. I just know there's nothing you can do. If you come when she calls, and they meet here, and they get killed on time, everything and everyone is fine. You're fine. I'm fine. And if not? Well, from what I understand, quick rides aren't always safe." The old cop gave me an oddly threatening vibe. "Good luck, kid," he said as he walked back to his cruiser. That was 2 weeks ago. I've picked up Lydia and delivered her to her death a dozen times already. I looked into what the cop alluded to, and it turns out there is a rather nasty string of deaths of not only another quick ride driver locally, but also at least 2 taxi drivers going back as far as 1969, when my mysterious fare and her apparent lover were killed by a subject unknown in that gazebo. I've tried to plead with her. I've tried shouting at them both when I see the figure approach. She always does nothing more than point out the strange nature of my truck and its lack of ashtray. Then she sits unbuckled in the back seat. Sometimes she tells me to hurry. Sometimes the captain, the old cop, shows up, but most of the time he does not. No matter how many times I will do this, it does not get any more easy driving someone to their death. Not once, but this many times. How many more times? The longer this goes on, the further away she appears. The 4th time I picked her up, she was clear across town. Somehow this curse is overriding the app, and as materialistic and weird as this will sound, ghosts and curses do not pay. I've been handed the same $2 from 1955. A great tip in 1969, but as soon as they're gone, so is the cash, and so is the fare in the app. Frankly, I'm beginning to spend more on gas. I'm wearing down my car, and I have to drive more to pick up real fares to make it up. My girl is getting more and more annoyed with me, as I've taken to driving at least a little every night around the 10 o'clock hour to make sure I don't miss the mod girl when she comes calling. But I'm starting earlier each night to make sure I can get to her on time wherever she ends up being. The curse, and that's what this is, a curse, is taking over my life. That's why I'm reaching out here. I can't afford to stop driving. I can't afford to drive. I'm scared if I miss her. I don't want to end up like the rest of those drivers. Anything you can think of to try to help me, please write back, and write back soon.